So right now the session we have is one which really suits the year we are in, which is 2020, an Olympics year. And at the Tata Steel Kolkata Literary Meet, we always pride ourselves in having some of the best sportsmen coming to the festival. This year, we are delighted to launch a book by Boria Majumdar, Dreams of a Billion. And after that happens, we'll be really honored to listen to Pulela Gopichand and Devendra Jhajaria alongside the two authors of the book, Nalin Mehta and Boria Majumdar. So I'd invite all four panelists onto stage. So a big round of applause for Pulela Gopichand, on whose rather slender but extremely resilient shoulders rests our badminton hopes, and Devendra Jhajaria, a star from the Paralympics, who will also be representing India in Tokyo. So the book is called Dreams of a Billion. It's about India's Olympic history. And before we start the session, perhaps you could all take the book and we'll have a photo op. This is the first time you're doing a session in Calcutta on the book? Oh, this is the first launch. Oh, wow. So this is the first launch. You've seen it for the first time in Kolkata. And Boria has been a trusted friend of the festival. So thank you for that. So over to you, Boria. The session is called 2020 Vision, India at the Olympics.
Okay. Firstly, thank you very much, all of you, for coming. Before our festival director goes off stage, let me try and do something as an experiment that I've done a couple of times, not in India, but in other parts of the world. So Mala Banerjee, don't go down. You know, what does an Olympic Games actually entail? What do these people, Devendra Jhajaria, 2 gold medals, Pulela Gopichand, producing multiple medalists, what do they really go through? What is the difference between a win and a loss? And I will actually give you one example from our friend, a common friend, Mala's and mine, and Gopi's, and Nalin's, and Devendra's, Abhinav Bindra. Now, if I can request Mala to come here and take out one strand of hair. I'm not joking. One strand of hair, one. Sorry, if you can, one strand of hair, and anybody who's sitting from row 5 or 6, can you see that one strand of hair? And can you see the tip of that one strand of hair? Abhinav Bindra lost his Rio medal by 1/3 of that tip of hair. So now you realize, thank you, Mala. Now you realize what is the difference between an Olympic medal and coming forth, or feeling sad, or feeling dejected. Welcome, Pulela Gopichand, Devendra Jhajaria, and Nalin Mehta. How do I set this up? I'll set this up with both Gopi and Devendra. So when Gopi and I first started talking, Nalin, Gopi and I, about the book, how do I talk about Gopi and what do I say about Gopi? Okay, so this is PV Sindhu talking to me about Pulela Gopichand. So we're talking about Rio 2016, and she said to me, you know, sir, Gopi sir called me to the academy, and if any of you have seen PV Sindhu's trajectory, you will see PV Sindhu was reticent, quiet, soft-spoken, and the last couple of years, PV Sindhu is straight there, shouting, screaming, dominating. And she says to me, one day in the academy, which will stretch twice the size of this auditorium, makeshift auditorium, there are about 8-9 courts there. Pulela Gopichand calls PV Sindhu to the academy, only PV Sindhu, only. Now imagine the two people standing right there in that academy, one Gopi, one Sindhu, and he says to her, shout, 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 till the time she actually breaks down and starts crying. And Gopi says to her, and then she screams in pain and agony, why are you doing this to me? And he says, that's what I want you to do tomorrow in court. Transformed PV Sindhu forever. And I will get Gopi to talk about everything else that he's done to produce multiple Olympic champions for India. If there's anyone who in this country, which is fraught by divisiveness, communal disharmony, and the 20,000 problems that we see each and every day, who gives me hope that there is an India of optimism, ladies and gentlemen, that's Pulela Gopichand. Devendra Jhajaria. Devendra, I know for a long, long time. Only person, 2004 and 2016. Imagine 12 years, and this man has won 2 Olympic gold medals. 2 Olympic golds. So I said, यार तुमने कैसे कर लिया? So he said, देखिए मैं जब वो ट्रेनिंग के लिए जब अंदर जाता था, मैं देखता था कि बाकी जो सारे एथलीट्स हैं ना, वो थेराबैंड से ट्रेनिंग करते हैं. थेराबैंड के लिए अपना शोल्डर के लिए ट्रेनिंग करते हैं. मेरे पास तो थेराबैंड भी नहीं था, उतना पैसा भी नहीं था, स्पोर्ट्स साइंस भी नहीं था, फिजियो भी नहीं था, न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट भी नहीं था. तो मैंने क्या किया, मैंने एक कुल्हाड़ी ले लिया. मैंने कुल्हाड़ी लेके पेड़ काटना शुरू कर दिया. सो मैं दिन में 300-400 बार वो काटता था. मेरा शोल्डर का एक्सरसाइज हो जाता था इक्वल टू 2 Olympic gold medals. This is India. Ladies and gentlemen, Devendra Jhajaria. And Nalin and I, we worked together for, I don't know how, I mean, we are brothers from a different mother. I mean, both of us know each other for donkey's years. We have this joke with our wives that we are still in love, we are. So Nalin Mehta and I'm proud to have him as my co-author, that's all I will say. Nalin, let me start with you before I go to Gopi and Devendra. Gopi and Devendra are 2 of the greatest sportsmen that contemporary India have seen. But this is also about the past. This is also about the scope, the range of India's Olympic encounter. Can you just set up the story with what happened in the 1920s and 30s?
Yes. So you've heard some of the stories of these greats here. Now, this year is 100 years of India going to the Olympics. One of the things, we were looking at the archives, and this book actually started from the IOC archives in Lausanne in Switzerland, where Boria first went and then I went. And we asked them, do you have anything on India? Because we don't have any archives in India on sport. And they said, no, we don't have anything. Then we pushed them and we found cupboards of files and files and files. And we opened these files and we found this unbelievable story of a country which was a colony. And we found, we won 11 gold medals in hockey almost at a trot when we were still a British colony. How were these guys? You heard Devendra's story. You've heard how Gopi created his machine of champions. At that time, how are these guys going and how are they winning? We found, how the first hockey teams went to Amsterdam and then to Los Angeles. There was crowdsourcing happening. Nationalists across this country were holding public meetings and saying we need to send a hockey team, and they were raising money. The first hockey team that went, the cost was 35,000 rupees at that time for the whole team. And they managed to raise 22,000 rupees. Money raised from West Bengal, Bengal, Punjab, the central provinces, then the United Provinces, what is now called UP. And they found that they managed to raise 22,000 rupees. They were still short. So then some princes and Dorabji Tata and others, they came together and raised the other money. But they were still short. So what were these hockey guys doing? When they were on the ship, wherever the ship would dock, they were playing exhibition matches to raise money for themselves, to feed themselves. That's how India first went. Why was it so important for India to play at the Olympics? Because a lot of these guys decided, Dorabji Tata, who founded the Olympic movement, they decided that sport is about modernity. Unless you beat the white man on their own turf and become play on the same turf, you're not going to become a modern nation. England, India wins gold in 1924. 1928. The sitting gold champion at that time was England. You know what happened before that? India went to England, played an exhibition match before Amsterdam, and they beat England 4-0. England decided not to participate in the Olympics as a sitting gold medalist. And England does not participate in Olympic hockey until India becomes independent in 1947. Because they just couldn't be seen to be losing to a colony. So England just boycotts or virtually boycotts hockey until 1948 when India goes to London at the London Olympics and then beats England in the finals in London. So we found this story of the creation. We have so many ideas about nationalism. But sport is one area where our nationalism was also formed. Now, India's first great nationalist triumphs were forged on the fields of Olympic hockey. We talk about cricket. These things came in hockey. The other point, the last point, Boria, and then we move on. 1936, Dhyan Chand's team goes to Germany. They play in Nazi Germany. We've all heard about Jesse Owens and the black salute there, right? What do these guys do? India is the only team. They're fighting. They're participating in the Olympics as part of the British Empire. They're called. They're on that flag. In the opening ceremony in Berlin, the Indian team is walking past. It's the only team which refuses to salute Hitler. Every team salutes Hitler. Because the only other team that does it is the United States. India, because the Indian Congress and the nationalists at that time were opposing Hitler, unlike the British Empire at that time, remember there was appeasement happening. The British were supporting the Germans at that point. India decides not to salute. So and these are stories that no one knows, and we found these in the archives. And I think that is what gives us a sense of where India has come from as a nation and where we are going.
Gopi, if that is the story of hardship that we've seen in the colonial times, everybody sitting out here knows Pulela Gopichand, Padma Bhushan, multiple awards, producer of Champions. Can you tell us what you actually went through in 2003-04 when you were starting out with your academy, when you had come back as an All England champion, left a cola ad for 50 lakhs because of your ideals, and you thought, I will now get into coaching. What did you have to go through, and how did you overcome that? By the way, I will ask Gopi about how he deals with Saina and Sindhu. Don't worry.
Well, good evening, everybody. I think for me, when I won the All England, all the years before that, I learned from a lot of coaches. I learned from a lot of trial and error, and went through a lot in terms of my own injuries and stuff. But around the time of the All England when I won, I kind of realized that I had the formula which is required to win. But unfortunately, I didn't have the body to last or use that formula long enough. So I said, let me try and build something, because the challenges back then when I was playing were very fundamental. We go to the stadium, watchman nahi aaya, stadium mein andar gaya, light nahi hai. Then you go to the ground, shadi hua hai. These were the kind of problems we would have. So when I wanted to coach, I thought it was very important that none of my students should have this problem, that they don't have shuttles, courts, gym, training ground, all of these things. And planned to build an academy. And luckily for me, the then government gave me a piece of land. There was one gentleman called N. Prasad who gave me a 2 crore check to start off. And then I thought that as an All England champion, you will, and I knew people, and I knew a lot of people, and I knew that people would start funding. But unfortunately, things didn't happen the way I expected it to. Then they said initially that an ATG will give you funding. I said, okay. Then they said 100% exemption will give you funding. I said, okay. But unfortunately, at the end of it, as an All England champion, you're signing autographs, you're posing for pictures. But suddenly, people started to not take my calls. When I went to a function or something, people would say, "Ye wapas aa gaya hai." And slowly faced a lot of dejection in terms of people saying, it's not part of our CSR, we can't fund you. People said, badminton doesn't have the eyeballs to be a world sport. I don't think Indians can win in this. Some people told me on the face that no great player has become a great coach, so I don't think you can become one. So kind of it was very, very dejecting. And then as things would have it, one day when I went to Bombay, and the CFO of a certain company came out and said that I don't think badminton has the eyeball. After waiting for 3 days, right from 9:30 till 6:30 in the evening, he said, "Gopi, I don't think Indians have it in them to be champions, and I don't think that badminton is a sport which has the eyeballs to be a champion." So I walked out crying on that day, went back home, called my parents and wife. We live in a 1,000 yards bungalow which we made after the All England. I told them, I don't think I can do this anymore. We'll have to sell the house. And within 5 minutes, they agreed. And thankfully, The next day, we were able to mortgage my house. And luckily, by then, 6 years after the All England, my dad, as a banker, typically put the 25 lakhs which I got from the government into the bank. That became 50. My brother gave me another 75 lakhs. And then, with my entire resources, we got a 3 crore loan from the house. And that's how we were able to finish the construction of the academy in 2008.
And just to add to that, when he was actually finishing the construction of the academy, his mother was undergoing treatment for cancer, and she had been diagnosed of cancer. And his 2 children were 1 and 2 years of age. So to go through that period and produce what we have seen Gopi Chand produce takes some doing. देवेंद्र भाई, आप मेरे को बार बार बोल रहे थे that 8 साल पे जब आपका वो आपके साथ जो हुआ और उसके बाद आप 1 महीना घर से निकले नहीं थे. And can you tell us that story when you went to school? आपके साथ स्कूल में क्या हुआ? आपकी माँ ने क्या कहा? And then becoming देवेंद्र झाझारिया. बताइए सर.
नमस्कार बोरिया जी, नीलन जी और गोपी चंद जी. 8 साल की उम्र में जब बिजली का करंट लग गया था और मुझे एक हाथ गंवाना पड़ा था, तो जब मैं हॉस्पिटल से वापस मेरे गांव में पहुंचा तो मैं 1 से 1.5 महीने घर से बाहर ही नहीं निकला था. तो मेरी मम्मी ने कहा कि क्यों नहीं जाता बाहर आप. तो मैंने कहा मेरे बारे में बच्चे क्या सोचेंगे, मैं खेल भी नहीं सकता शायद. तो मेरी मदर ने कहा क्या प्रॉब्लम है आपके, कुछ नहीं हुआ, बच्चों में जाइए खेलिए. तो वहाँ से मैंने शुरुआत की और मैं घर से बाहर निकल पाया. स्कूल में गया तो स्कूल में मैंने सोचा मेरा इंटरेस्ट हुआ तो मुझे गेम करना चाहिए. तो मैंने जेवलिन उठाई, मैंने कहा मैं भी फेंक के देखूँगा कैसी क्या है. तो वहाँ पर भी यही क्वेश्चन था कि आप तो डिफरेंटली एबल हो, आप गेम थोड़ी करोगे. तो मैंने कहा क्यों? बोला आप ऐसे करो, पढ़ाई करो और सरकारी जॉब पकड़ो आप, ये ग्राउंड ये आपके कोई काम का नहीं है. तो वहाँ तो मैंने कुछ नहीं बोला मैं, लेकिन मैंने वो जेवलिन देख ली कि ऐसे फेंकी जाती है. घर पे आया मैंने और एक लकड़ी की वैसी जेवलिन बनाई. वैसी तो नहीं बनी लेकिन उस आकार की मैंने बनाने की कोशिश की. और उस लकड़ी की जेवलिन से मैं सामान्य बच्चों में जब हम डिस्ट्रिक्ट के टूर्नामेंट हुए तो मैं चैंपियन बना. तो मेरी लाइफ का मैं मानता हूँ मेरा ओलंपिक से कम नहीं था वो, क्योंकि मैं ये मानता था कि मैं कमज़ोर नहीं, अब लोग मुझे कैसे कमज़ोर कहेंगे, मैं डिस्ट्रिक्ट का चैंपियन बना हूँ. वहीं से एक खेल की शुरुआत हुई थी. और एक दिन मैंने ज़रूर, जब मैं डिस्ट्रिक्ट का चैंपियन बना तो मैं वैसे ही थ्रो कर रहा था बच्चों के बीच में और कुछ बड़े भी थे वहाँ पे. तो मैंने एक बच्चे को कहा देखना एक दिन मैं वर्ल्ड चैंपियन बनूंगा, क्योंकि हम सोचते तो हैं. तो सभी ने मेरी मजाक सी उड़ाई, क्या बोल रहा है. 1-2 ने जरूर बोला कि मेहनत करोगे तो क्यों नहीं बन सकते, आप भी बन सकते हो. एक्चुअली मैं दिल से बताऊं कि स्पोर्ट्स है वो, उस टाइम मेरे अंदर इतना आ गया था कि मैं स्पोर्ट्स को नहीं छोड़ सकता, मुझे गेम करना है. और जब मैंने गेम की एक शुरुआत की, और मैं सामान्य खिलाड़ियों में खेलता था पहले, और मैं ऑल इंडिया इंटरस्ट्री में मेडलिस्ट रहा, जूनियर नेशनल का मैं मेडलिस्ट रहा. कई बार मुझे खेल से पहले बहुत बार बोलते थे कि यार ये कैसे सिफारिश से आ गया, ये इसके तो हाथ ही नहीं है. जब मैं मेडल जीतता था तो वही लोग आके कहते थे कि हमसे तो बहुत बड़ी भूल हो गई आपको, हमने आपके बारे में ये बोला. तो मैंने कहा ये मेरे को आदत बन गई, अब मुझे कोई इस बात का कोई मुझे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं होता इस बात का. तो ओपनिंग की मेरी यही स्टोरी थी.
Nalin, one of the things that we have celebrated in the book, and if you see this panel, and I'm actually grateful to Mala, when we were sort of conceptualizing this panel, and I said we have to launch the book in this festival. This festival is very close to me. And we said, one thing that has not happened in Indian sport is able-bodied athletes have not been celebrated together with specially abled athletes who we actually call in our book extraordinarily abled athletes. If you see my panel, This is actually a statement that we are trying to make. Those two stories, Paralympics and Olympics, are represented under one umbrella, one cover. It's the same story. For me, these two are athletes. No one's specially abled, no one's abled. Nalin, can you talk us through that, please? That whole notion that we've been grappling with for the longest time?
No, absolutely. Because, you know, how many people in this audience would know Murlikant Petkar? How many know Murlikant Petkar? Anyone who knows? Yes, ma'am.
That's because she's from Meraki, so she's from a sports management background. I can bet my bottom dollar, had she not been from a sports management background, she wouldn't know who Murlikant Petkar was.
So he won in Paralympics in 1972 India's first gold medal. He was a soldier. He was wounded in the 65 war, lost his leg, and then won in freestyle 50 meters a gold medal. And virtually nobody in this country recognized that achievement. This is a country which had won only 17 medals in the Olympics from 1920 to 2008. And after that, we won 11 more. In a country where you don't win medals in the Olympics, a man had gone and won a gold medal in Paralympics, and virtually, you know, Devendra Jhajaria is being celebrated today. Gopi Chand is being celebrated. We have forgotten these people. So this is the kind of thing that Boria and I were talking about. Deepa Malik won a silver in Rio, just as Devendra Jhajaria won a gold. You know, we were talking about Deepa. I want to tell this story, Boria, which is this. Deepa Malik's husband was fighting in the Kargil war. In the middle of the Kargil war, she gets diagnosed with spinal tumor. She goes to the hospital. She's got two children, 9 and 5, two daughters. And the doctors tell her, you've got 7 days to walk. We got to operate you, you'll never walk again. So what does she do? And she called her husband who was fighting in the war. She goes and buys a microwave. She says, I had only two choices. I could just wallow in self-pity and cry, or I could help my kids. She went and bought a microwave and bought Tupperware to teach her kids how to warm the food, because she said, I can't warm my food for you. After that, I'll be on the bed. And my husband is not here. And she called her husband, and husband said, don't worry. Let the war finish. I'll come home, and then I'll carry you in my arms forever. She starts from there. She got 188 stitches on her back, and she couldn't move after that. She eventually starts recuperating by learning javelin on the wheelchair. And then javelin is removed as an event. So then she starts learning shot put. And then she goes and wins a medal at the Olympics. Now these are the kinds of stories of Indian grit and of this is what what life is about. This is not about sport. This is about how do you live your life. And these are the stories that we wanted to bring out, and I think they have been underappreciated so far. We have just made a small, humble beginning. We hope many more of these stories are documented and written about. And Boria talked about, you know, we won 4 medals in Rio in Paralympics. We think we could go on and win maybe 15 medals in Tokyo.
That's not what we think. Devendra Jhajaria will be one of them. We are predicting that tonight. Devendra Jhajaria once again in Tokyo will win another one, and we are actually predicting 15 medals for India in Tokyo in the Paralympic Games. So from 4 to 15, hold us responsible. It can be more than 15. That's a claim that we are making in Dreams of a Billion India in the Olympic Games. Not too much time, Gopi, so I've got to ask you this. Saina Nehwal, superstar champion, PV Sindhu, superstar champion, you are in the middle. Both want your attention. We've talked about it at length. How do you deal with egos? How do you deal with these two champions together? How do you train them together when both of them, obviously, there is tremendous rivalry, not only between themselves, the two parents, the two fathers, they don't see eye to eye. Everybody knows all this. What does Gopi Chand do? When the two of them play, Gopi one time stood in one corner and had a little smile on his face, and he had to face tremendous problems post that. So that is the Saina Nehwal, PV Sindhu dynamic. How did you deal with all this? And what do you do?
I think when Boria heard this story, and it was not from me that he heard this story first, so he said, Gopi and his women.
I'll qualify that. I said Gopi and his women, and then I suddenly realized, what about his wife Lakshmi? So
I think over the years, it's been tough, is the least I can say, but needed to manage, and that's what India's story is. And when I look at the book, that's what it is. In the sense, each one's journey is very different, and each of these champions is very different. And to celebrate that diversity is what India is. If you probably go to a China, you won't find that diversity. You will see one model fits all. But here, somehow, it's very different. Each one has taken a different path. And to bring that together to a medalist is something which is a challenge which we have as a country. I've been very fortunate, I would say, that Saina and Sindhu have brought Indian badminton to that stage where we are. Because when we look at men's badminton over the years, we can still say that there were people, right from Nandu Natekar, Suresh Goyal, to Prakash sir, to myself, or some, at least on the men's side, we probably had some champions. But on the women's side, we didn't have any. And I think to start that off and to bring the confidence that Indian women can be strong enough to play the highest level in the world, I think that is what Saina had done and Sindhu has emulated, and that's, I think, something which was phenomenal. And I think what Boria knows a lot of the story, so I won't really have to mention
The audience doesn't, please.
I think even in my dream, if I have in my mind, if I were to say that this is my favorite trainee, I think that will be the end of me. So I think I try to refrain from doing any of that in my thought or in my words. And that's why when they played the Commonwealth final, for example, I just ensured that I stayed out of the stadium, because somewhere somebody in a previous match, I was hiding and watching the match, said that Gopi sir was tilting to one side when you were holding a point, and that was a big thing for me. So I think it was very important that a coach is seen as being fair as well. And I think that's something which
One
There is
more-
a lovely conclusion to this story which Gopi is not saying, which is when in the Commonwealth Games final, when Gopi walked out and said, I won't watch them because he said, I'll watch the stadium outside. He came back when the score was 17. Gopi, why did you come back at that point?
I think the pleasure of having India go up for a gold and a silver and the national anthem being played, I think that is worth every effort in life, and that's something which I didn't want to miss, and that was very important for me.
Gopi, just one more before I go to Devendra Bhai again. And this is a tough one. I mean, and I've asked you this. I really want you to talk about it. 2016, Sindhu is a reigning superstar, has just won the Rio Silver. Saina is probably, facing the lowest in her life. Losing the first round in Rio, undergoing that ankle surgery, really doesn't know if she'll be able to make a comeback. Low, has put on weight, not the best diet, not the best mental frame. And then she had left earlier. We can talk about that in a bit. When she decides to come back, Gopi, and approaches you, and you already have Sindhu who has reached that level, you decided to accept Saina back. You welcomed her back. What prompted you to do that? How did that encounter go? And what was Sindhu's reaction? Because automatically, she was the one who was getting all the attention in Rio. You two were inseparable. That's why she won that medal. What was her reaction? Because this is also about managing these superstar athletes, because that's how you produce champions. How tough was that? How did you handle that?
Well, for me, one of the reasons I believe that I've been able to contribute is that I felt that these kids were my own. And I owned the students. So when Sindhu left, when Saina left, I felt a sense of bitterness which I anguish, or I was unhappy about it. And that for the first time, I think in the book, Boria has got out of me. But then when I saw her at the Olympics, and I believed that she had a golden chance to win that medal in Rio. And when I saw her lose that, and when she came back and said, I'm not finding my rhythm and I'm not able to figure it out, can you help me out? I had no way I could say no to her. And I told Sindhu this then, that Saina is going to be back, but it doesn't mean that it's out of your time. So you will have your time and Saina will have your time. How I manage is my problem, but you just tell me what you need and it will be done, is what I had to tell her. So it's always been difficult for me to manage these players. And today I've spoken in the last couple of years the need for a system in our country, because to depend on emotion and energy is not going to last long, and we as a country need to figure a system out, is what I've been talking about.
It is challenging. I can tell you that if you go to Hyderabad and see Gopi, his day starts at 4 o'clock in the morning every single day, 4 a.m. Every single day, 365 days of the year. देवेंद्र भाई, आप मुझे कह रहे थे कि आप जब एथेंस गए थे, आप ओलंपिक्स में देख रहे थे, द चाइनीज़ वर कमिंग इनटू द स्टेडियम, अदर एथलीट्स वर कमिंग इनटू द स्टेडियम, उनके साथ फिजियोज थे, साइंटिस्ट्स थे, स्पोर्ट्स न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट थे, आपके पास कुछ नहीं था. उसके बावजूद आपने गोल्ड मेडल जीता. आप क्या वो कुल्हाड़ी वाला स्टोरी कह सकते हैं? एग्जैक्टली आपने क्या किया वो थेराबैंड जब आपने देखा, एंड देन यू डिवाइस्ड योर ओन वे, द इंडियन वे ऑफ जुगाड़?
एक्चुअली 2002 में जो पैरा एशियन गेम्स थे उसमें मैं गया था, तो वहाँ पे देखा कि थेराबैंड से एक्सरसाइज हो रही थी. तो हमारे पास तो ऐसी नहीं थी व्यवस्थाएं, तो मैंने दिमाग लगाया कि क्या किया जाए इसमें. तो मेरे घर पे, मैं किसान का बेटा हूँ, तो घर पे सब रहते थे, कुल्हाड़ी फावड़ा. तो मैंने सोचा एक कुल्हाड़ी से इस पेड़ पे मैं अच्छी एक्सरसाइज कर सकता हूँ. मुझे शोल्डर तो स्ट्रॉन्ग करना है. वो मैंने 2 साल किया. और न्यूट्रिशन की बात तो हम सोच ही नहीं सकते थे उस टाइम में. मैं रियली बताऊँ, मेरे पास 300-400 रुपए के स्पाइक्स थे सिर्फ. और जब मैं ट्रेनिंग कर रहा था, मैं गांव में ट्रेनिंग कर रहा था, तो मैं एक दिन मैंने बहुत अच्छा थ्रो किया. तो मैं घर पे बहुत खुशी से आया कि आज मैं घर पे चल करके बताऊंगा कि मैंने बहुत अच्छा थ्रो किया है. उस दिन मैंने वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड से ऊपर थ्रो किया था, तो वो खुशी होने की बात ही थी. तो मैं घर पे पहुंचा तो कुछ विचार चल रहा था घर में. मम्मी पापा बैठे थे, वो शांत बैठे थे. तो मैंने, पापा से मैं ज़्यादा नहीं पूछता था, और मैं जब पहुंचा तो वो बिल्कुल बातें बंद उनकी. तो मैंने पूछा क्या बात थी. मम्मी मुझे उदास भी दिखाई दी. तो मम्मी ने कहा ऐसा ही कुछ नहीं था. मैंने कहा नहीं, फिर भी कुछ तो होगा, क्योंकि मैंने आकर के बताया तो भी ज़्यादा खुशी सी नहीं हुई. मम्मी के नहीं, पापा के हुई. तो मम्मी ने कहा कि दिक्कत ये है कि आप खेलने जा रहे हो और हमारे पास पैसे नहीं हैं. क्यों, मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि उस टाइम मैं खुद पैसे भर के गया था ओलंपिक. तो इसलिए जब आपको पैसे, फ्लाइट के पैसे ही आप खुद दे के जा रहे हो, तो आप न्यूट्रिशन की, फिजियोथेरेपिस्ट की तो कल्पना भी करना मेरे ख्याल से गलत है. लेकिन कहीं न कहीं मेरे अंदर जुनून था. जब ओपनिंग सेरेमनी में मैं गया था, तो मैंने मेरे मित्र को बोला था कि जो एथलेटिक्स का स्टेडियम था, मैंने कहा अब तक राष्ट्र का इस पे राष्ट्रीय गान नहीं हुआ है, देखना 18 सितंबर को मैं करूँगा ये काम. और उस टूर्नामेंट में मैंने गोल्ड मेडल नहीं, वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड के साथ वो गोल्ड मेडल जीता था. मुझे बहुत खुशी हुई कि सुविधाएं अपनी जगह है, साइंस अपनी जगह है, और जुनून अपनी जगह है. तो जुनून है वो सबसे आगे है.
Nalin, can you, just to add to this, can you tell them about the Mary story, please, that we've documented in the book?
So, Mary Kom, this is before the 2012 Olympics, before she became an Olympian.
Hold it close.
Yeah. So we were calling Mary Kom for an interview. She had already won world championship titles, but she wasn't the kind of national name then as she is now. And she was in Imphal. Somebody had fixed up the interview. We called her in the morning, and she was very brusque. She said, "Call after 1 hour." So, you know, as journalists, you're used to people putting the phone down on you if they don't want to talk. Like Gopi, when you ask him 3-4 times and he doesn't want to talk to you, after some time, after 3 calls, he'll close his phone down. His phone is out of range after that. He'll switch it off. So with Mary, we thought, oh man, she doesn't want to talk to us. So after an hour, we called back and we said, look, is it okay? Do you want to talk? And she said, no, there's no problem at all. In fact, I do want to speak to you. But actually, I've been home after so long. I've got small kids. I was making aloo parathas for them. And today the maid wasn't there, so I was also washing the utensils thereafter. So that's why I couldn't speak to you an hour ago. So the thing is that when we see in the newspaper headlines, we see on television these people doing superhuman feats, you think that they're different. But everybody is going through the same challenges, just as others in other jobs and so on, except that these people are truly extraordinary because they transcend the normalcy of our daily existence and do something which is unbelievable. Abhinav Bindra has this saying in his academy, which he's put on the wall: the Olympics don't come every 4 years; they come every second and every day. It's the process; it's what you do, and then you might be able to win on that particular day. And that's true for everybody in all the other professions too.
Mala's just given me a cue that I'll open it up for questions before I do my last 1 point for Gopi, and I'll open it up. By the way, when I called Gopi for interviews for this book, and he, as I've said, his day starts at 4 a.m. in the morning. And he said to me first, he said, no, it's too much of work. I've got too much on my plate. And I kept persisting. If you know me, you will know I'm not one to give up. And he said, okay, fine. After much bugging, much pushing, he said, okay, fine, your time is 4 o'clock. I said, done. And he said, 4 a.m. And I'm like, okay. So I've actually spoken to Gopi for 60 hours on tape for this book. It's between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. That was our time. For the first time you've spoken when Saina left, you felt let down. Even Gopi Chand can feel let down. You felt let down because someone of the stature of Prakash maybe could have told Saina not to, or could have, I don't know what. Can you, and you've opened up in this book about your mindset. We think you can do everything, but clearly you can't. Can you tell me about that mindset where you also feel helpless?
Well, for me, when I started and when we in Hyderabad didn't even have a national champion. So I never thought I will continue playing sport for a very long time. Only I started playing in the year 1985. In 1991, I won the junior nationals. And why I'm saying this is, I got my first job at Tata Steel in 1991 November. And that's when my playing badminton was confirmed as a career. So till then, I wasn't even sure that I would play tomorrow. Luckily, I didn't get my engineering exam passed. So I got a year more to play badminton, and that's when I won the junior nationals, got a job, and then my parents said, now you can play. And that's how my sport was. So I never really dreamt or thought that I would become somebody big or something. For us, truly, thanks to Prakash sir, we at least dreamt or believed that Indians can win something as big as an All England. So I think he was a real hero for us growing up. And then when I won the All England, I realized, boss, if I can win the All England, many others can win. And that's how the thought of starting an academy was. And this entire process where we went on to build an academy and started off. And the truth is that I believe that all of these students were my own. So whenever I ask Lakshmi, she says, I talk about Gayatri and Vishnu's childhood. She says, he's lying because he never saw them grow up. And I think it's also the truth because I never spent really time. And I was very fortunate that my parents and wife, they really took care of those initial years growing up. So much so that I and Lakshmi went out for our first holiday almost 9 years after we got married. And that was like criminal to think of it. But I managed such abnormal things. So when almost Saina was, every day morning I would get up. I need to get up because it's important for Saina. It's almost like 5:30 in the morning was my training session. And come 2010, then I was already working from 5:30 in the morning. and I needed to find another slot for Sindhu, and that was 4:30 in the morning. So, come 2010 January onwards, I would get up and leave for the stadium at 4:15 in the morning to actually have the first session at 4. So I believed all my life that these were my kids, my kids. And then suddenly, when this incident after after the World Championships of 2014 happened, it was definitely something which I felt very hurt about. And that's when I thought maybe, and no disrespect to Prakash sir, I really truly believe that he's a hero who's a role model for me, and he continues to be one. And I just felt that something very dear to me had been taken away. And I thought maybe all I was in Copenhagen and she was in Hyderabad. I asked her to stay back for a day, and she didn't. And that's something which I kind of mentioned in the book.
Let me open it up for questions. I'll sum it up at the end. Yes, please introduce yourself, sir. And ma'am, can we have the microphone there? I'll take about three or four.
Gopi, it has been, I'm Shubha, and Gopi, it has been a pleasure hearing all of you, and especially you. So after Saina and Sindhu, who's the future of Indian badminton?
Well, I've said this in the last couple of years more than before, that we need to build a system, because if you look at what we have done, beyond Saina and Sindhu, we really haven't invested in any. And the next best players have really not been taken care of. And it's very important that we start looking at it. Today, thanks to the popularity of the game, the numbers have grown enormously. And there is a huge amount of talent. And I do believe that as time goes, we will find many players come by. For the risk of missing out on young talented players, and for the risk of demotivating somebody who would have felt that Gopi sir should have said my name, I don't want to take any names. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, two more. Yeah.
Good evening. As Boria sir stated in the beginning of the session, the border by which a player can lose a medal in an event like Olympics. So how to overcome that frustration after the loss and go on practicing and again?
देवेंद्र भाई आप ही ले लो, बिकॉज एक बार आपका इवेंट ही हट गया था, आप सोचे थे मैं गेम छोड़ दूंगा 2010 में, उसके बाद आपने रियो में दोबारा गोल्ड जीत लिया. आप ही आंसर करो इसको.
एक्चुअली 2004 के अंदर जब मैंने गोल्ड मेडल जीता था, तो 2008 के अंदर और 12 के अंदर मेरा इवेंट नहीं आया. लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपको हर दिन एक नया सोचना होता है कि अगले में मेरा इवेंट आएगा. तो जब मेरे को 12 के बाद 13 में पता चला कि मेरा इवेंट आ गया 16 में, तो मेरे से काफ़ी लोगों ने क्वेश्चन किया कि क्या अब आप ओलंपिक में पार्टिसिपेट कर पाओगे. तो मैंने मेरे फ्रेंड से कहा कि मुझे इतना विश्वास है कि मैं इतनी मेहनत करूँगा कि मैं मेरा ही वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड ब्रेक करूँगा. तो 23 साल की उम्र में जब मैंने पहला गोल्ड लिया और 35 साल की उम्र में दूसरा गोल्ड मेडल लिया, असंभव कुछ भी नहीं है. और अभी टोक्यो की क्वालिफाई कर रखी है, तो उम्मीद है टोक्यो में भी वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड ब्रेक होगा.
Final one. Can we have a lady, please? This is an all-male panel, which is bad. So if this is not, it's the story of extraordinary men and women. Someone? Anyone? Yes, ma'am. Super.
Good evening. My name is Mohua, and I really admire all of you for what you're doing and bringing forth the sportsmen and their incredible stories. I wanted to ask you that you said you wanted to promote women because there were no women champions in badminton. Is that why you started the academy? And if so, do you feel that would you like more men also that you could promote? Because we've not seen such great badminton men champions. Now Saina and Sindhu have become huge, and all kudos to them and you. But what about the men?
Well, as we speak, there are about 7 men in the top 30 of the world rankings from India. So we do have. But of course, Sindhu's and Saina's achievements of being world number 1 and world champions and having won medals at the Olympics is where the limelight goes to. So you have to give credit to the women for actually bringing the sport up to the highest level. But I do believe that I think this whole inspiration will spread across genders and communities, and the whole country as such will benefit from that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Very quickly, last one. Yeah, go for it.
Good evening. It's great to have all of you here. It's actually a comment and a very profound one. Don't you guys think it's time that we replicate the Pulela Gopichandan model to other individual sports?
You want to say this? Nalin, why don't you take this?
The thing with
We've actually addressed this question.
we have
Take
addressed
it.
this in the book. There are 8 courts at Gopi's Academy. In that small place, that's a factory of Indian badminton. And I don't use factory in a pejorative sense. 2 world champions, 2 Olympic champions, and multiple Commonwealth and Asian Games medalists. I think we don't. At this moment in this country, there's enough money. Earlier there was no money. Now there's no dearth of money. The issue is about spending that money the right way, at the right people. Right now, for example, the top scheme of the government spends money on a Sindhu or a Mary Kom, who are the top of the game. As Gopi has made this point profoundly as well, you've got to also spend money on number 2 and number 3 and number 4. Because the number 1 is getting the money after they've reached a certain level. We won't find the next number 1 until we are doing it at the grassroots. Usain Bolt, for example, talks about this, that why are there so many great runners from Jamaica? Because they have a fantastic school system. He says the toughest races in my life were at the school level, not at the Olympics later. That's why I ended up winning later, because I was competing so hard from a very low level. Sindhu has been training with Gopi since she was 9 years old. They moved house to be next to Gopi. When he says they are my kids, they really were his kids from that age. So now in shooting now, for example, a system has been set up over the last 4 years. We need to have that in various sports. We don't have that right now.
Okay, just to close it out. Why is the Olympic Games so very important for a country? Just a very 30-second answer. 1936, Germany. You talk about Adolf Hitler, you talk about Jesse Owens, comes there 4 gold medals, breaks the whole Nazi supremacy and the story. 1947, Jackie Robinson breaking the color line in the United States, taking all the racist insults. 1963, Curtis Flood and the whole story of taking them on. 1970s, Murlikant Petkar. 1980s, you talk about the Nadia Comaneci's of the world and the Olga Korbut doing the 10 on 10 and moving on. 1990s, Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson and the whole story there. Extraordinary achievements. 2000, our very own Kanam Maleshwari coming there, winning a medal. 2008, Saina Nehwal losing to Maria Christine Julianti, but telling us that we can do it, and Abhinav Bindra doing it for one final time. 2012, with Saina Nehwal once again, and finally in Rio, that fateful day, when Pulela Gopichand finally tells PV Sindhu walking into the court that don't think you've lost a gold medal, you've actually won a silver medal. This country can actually rise up. Sakshi Malik said she took to wrestling because she thought she can travel on an airplane and see the world because the government will fund her, ladies and gentlemen. An Olympic medal is not only commercial value, it can rise this country. It can take this country above like a phoenix, something that we celebrate in Dreams of a Billion. Put your hands together, because the story has not ended. Pulela Gopichand will be in Tokyo. Devendra Jhajaria will be in Tokyo, and their legacies live on. Maybe next year, Malavika Banerjee will once again call us at the Tata Steel Literature Festival in celebrating the following episode of this book, because as storytellers, Nalin Mehta and I will keep doing what we are, and we'll keep probing Devendra and Gopichand. Thank you for being a wonderful audience.
Thanks, everybody. The books are available at the bookstore, and the authors will be available for signing, and so will Gopi and Devendra. Thank you so much. Thank you. I won't thank Nalin and Boria, they're friends, but a special thank you to Gopi and Devendra. And I mean, they say that it's all about participating, and he's the dream merchant who's made us see dreams, but we expect you to realize those dreams. You are our men and women out there in Tokyo, so all the very best. Those interested in the TM Krishna concert, it's going to start in about 10-15 minutes at the Western Quadrangle.